What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are back at it with another what-if situation. We've been going down the conferences, and now we have reached the ACC. I know the ACC isn't as prestigious as the Big Ten or the SEC in my previous videos, but since you guys like it so much, we've grown a lot of views on these videos. We're going to continue making them, and now it's ACC's turn. Currently, there is 5-team tie at the end of the season with this prediction. I know you're looking down there going, why the heck is Virginia Tech there? Don't they have 3 losses? Yes, but 2 of those 3 losses are out of conference, and their only loss is to Miami, which is also on this list. So they still have an opportunity to tie it up with everyone, and at the end of the season be 9-3, and potentially, maybe, we'll see at the end of the video if they make it to the conference championship. And if they do make it to conference, they have a chance to make it to the playoffs. That's why they're still in the playoff contention in my other shorts. So check out all that stuff in the channel. Please like and subscribe if you like this type of content. But we have Clemson, Miami, Pitt, SMU, and Virginia Tech all in the running. We have a 5-way tie, 7-1. This, if you see my previous videos, you know how this works. We put the entire conference up and what their records will be by the end of the season based on my predictions. Based on kind of just like, if you have 5 teams going 7-1, there's gonna be a lot of teams losing games, and then you kind of just like kind of mix and match back half, like those 0-8s, those 1-7s. You kind of just make a prediction. I made a lot of assumptions that some of these teams probably just won't win a game again. So with that being said, this is what it looks like. We have 5 7-1 teams. We have a couple like Syracuse, Duke, and Georgia Tech sitting around the middle with Louisville. So if you look at my Virginia Tech's record, we see we have notable losses like Vanderbilt at the top. That's a better loss every day. And then we have Miami's loss, which is also on this list. And we have Clemson, Duke on the schedule. They also play Syracuse, just didn't really circle it because they already circled Duke. Next we have is SMU. SMU has some notable games like BYU. It's another loss that gets better every day. And then Louisville, Duke, Pitt, and then Pitt near the end of the season, kind of. And then they have a really easy schedule from that point on. Next we have is Pitt, also another undefeated team. We have notable games like Syracuse, SMU, Clemson, Louisville. They play a lot of good teams within their conference, but they have a terrible out-of-conference schedule. Even their first 6 wins, I would even argue, are probably really bad. Barely beating Cal, barely beating North Carolina, etc., etc. Pitt's schedule is a little rocky. Then we have Miami. Miami, just like Pitt, their schedule has been pretty laughable up to the Louisville win, but Louisville wasn't even ranked when they played them. There was a chance that Louisville could have been ranked, so it could have been their first ranked win. But if you even follow along, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, it's just not. They're just not there. Their notable wins are what? Virginia Tech, Louisville. If Virginia Tech continues winning, if they continue this cool tear in this scenario that we have, they have Syracuse at the end of the season. And you just got to hope some of these teams do perform better, maybe even get in the ranks for Miami's schedule, because it just doesn't look good for them to just be playing bad teams. Clemson, they have that big loss against Georgia. That's a notable game there out of conference. They have Louisville, Pitt, as well as South Carolina near the end, which is also out of conference. Just the same thing, the ACC, and depending on how these teams perform, if Pitt continues winning, then it'll look good for Clemson. If Louisville bounces back, then it'll look good for everyone else. If Syracuse do continue doing pretty well, it'll look better for everyone else. But if these teams just gobble each other up, they're not like the SEC where they're gobbling each other up, but they're still being ranked, you know, that kind of thing. Next, we're going to go over the 3-way team tie, and we're going to do 2 championship games in this video because I'm not 100% sure exactly what the language is trying to tell you, and if you look it up, there's not a lot there because it doesn't really happen very often to really determine. So we're gonna just go down by down. Combined head-to-head win percentage among tied teams if all tied teams have common opponents. So we have 5 teams, and there's some back and forth exchanges between them, but they don't all play each other. If all tied teams are not common opponents, the tied teams that defeat each other tied teams. So we'll go over that one pretty in-depthly, but there's a slight variation of that could influence it and change it, which is why we're going to go down to number 5, which is combined win percentage of conference opponents. Because this is just like the previous videos, we do the combined win percentage of conference opponents because 3 and 4 almost never come up because they only have 1 loss. It's not like they're competing for like a 2-2 loss. They're not competing for like second place essentially. And then of course you have your tied score, the highest ranking by team rating score metric, and then you have your draw, essentially flip of a coin kind of situation. So right now this is our common opponents, our common main opponents. All the other opponents are essentially irrelevant at this point. Like Duke is the most irrelevant team on this list, but it's just fun. It's just interesting to see who all plays them. And originally we were going to have Syracuse and Duke in this scenario. As you can see, Miami has to lose to Syracuse. Or Duke. Duke can also throw a wrench in it as well. But in this scenario, we have Miami losing to Syracuse. That's their 1 loss. Because Miami has already beaten Virginia Tech, as you can see. Pitt will lose to Clemson, but Clemson will lose to Virginia Tech, and SMU will lose to Pitt. This is how we get to the 7-1 for all of the teams. We'll be able to see where that leads us. If you look over to my left, you'll see the arrows that I have created of what happened. Miami beat Virginia Tech beat Clemson, Clemson beat Pitt, Pitt beat SMU. Pretty cut and dry. That is the number 2 on that list of 3 or more tied teams, where essentially it'll just go Miami 1, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Pitt, SMU, etc. But Syracuse could be an influencer depending on how the committee or the conference reads everything. Syracuse could be an influencer because Syracuse beat Miami, Virginia Tech beat Syracuse, Pitt also beat Syracuse, who then beat Miami, essentially creating a loop. I know Syracuse not necessarily in the scenario, but Syracuse could be influenced by this. SMU didn't really play anybody of similar caliber, so their only loss to Pitt, essentially, like kind of where that goes. Then I've compiled a list of the win percentage of conference opponents, just like I said earlier, number 4 on the list. So you have Miami sitting around 42.2%. That's of all of their conference opponents and what their win percentage is. Clemson's about 45%. Virginia Tech's 54%. Virginia Tech has one of the harder schedules on this list when it comes to talent-wise. They have the best record against the talent. If they were to win out this season, they have the best record against the entire ACC, essentially, when it comes to what their talent they've played up against. Pitt's around 43. SMU is 35.9. SMU has the easiest schedule, based on this scenario, easiest schedule in the ACC if it plays out this way. Based off the win percentage records, this is what the standings would be. Virginia Tech number 1, Clemson number 2, Pitt number 3, and then Miami number 4, and then SMU at the bottom. So what happened was, Miami beat Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech also beat Syracuse. Pitt also beat Syracuse. So if Pitt beat Syracuse and Syracuse beat Miami, Pitt's win percentage will then go up against Miami's, and Pitt has a better win percentage, and Clemson beat Pitt, so they will jump up into second, and then SMU lost to Pitt, and then SMU would be at the bottom because they would be tied with Miami, and they didn't play each other. So you look at the win percentages, then you go, okay, Miami's above them. So then we look at the 2 conference championships based on those 2 scenarios. Like I said before, this video is a little different because we have 2 separate ones because we're not 100% sure if they're going to take Syracuse into consideration, because if they do, they're going to have to go to the win percentage route. So the win percentage route would be Virginia Tech versus Clemson, 10-2 Clemson versus 9-3 Virginia Tech. 11-1 Miami would be left out in that scenario. But then if we go by the original graphic of just the arrows, just follow the line, Miami beat Virginia Tech beat Clemson, Clemson beat Pitt beat SMU. Just follow that order. That's the lineup. That's where we are. It's going to be 11-1 Miami versus 9-3 Virginia Tech. This was a very fun video to create. It was very fun, very entertaining. I just think it would be very interesting to see that Virginia Tech, a 9-3 program, making it all the way to the conference championship after starting the season off so rough. It would be so cool. It would be super cool. But that's going to be it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. We will continue making more of these videos because they're super fun and enjoyable. If you have any other scenarios that you would like to see, please put that in the bottom in the comments down below. And if you think that we could tweak the scenario, because I have a couple other scenarios within the ACC itself that I created, but I found that the Virginia Tech one is the most fun just because they're unranked. They're going to finish the season 9-3, and it would be super cool to see them in the conference championship just as an underdog story. But that's going to be it for this video. Peace!